It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, ends it, yes! Caught! Touchdown, they did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in. It's another edition of the Full Court Press. I'm Eric Frandsen. He's Jason Walker. And we're on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, 1069thefan.com, and the 1069 The Fan mobile app. Lots of different ways to listen to the show in real time or on the podcasts. We record all of our shows and make them available on our website and on our mobile app. Also, wherever you subscribe to podcasts, a lot of different ways to interact with the show in real time or when it's convenient for you. And, of course, you can always text into the program, again, whenever it's convenient to you or during the show as we're on live, 435-339-0321. Those are the numbers to text in. And a lot of things to get through today. Mondays are usually pretty busy, because we look back on the weekend that was. That includes high school football games on Friday, Mountain West football games on Saturday, and, of course, former Aggies in the NFL on Sunday, and anything else in between. And then it also includes stuff that happens today with the press conference with Bronco Mendenhall and players. And, of course, really big news over the weekend. Utah State finally announcing who the next director of athletics will be. And want to get your reactions to the announcement today. You can read more about it on CashValleyDaily.com. But Utah State has their guy, and he's got a really good pedigree that I think, Jason, checks a lot of boxes. Depending on whatever camp you were in, he seems to check whatever box was important to you. He seems to take care of a lot of those.
Yeah, let's go through the whole shebang here with explaining where we're going through with the new AD and all that. Partly because I was checking the text line while you were talking, Eric, so I didn't get the full scope of where you were leading me with that. But so we got Cameron Walker as the new AD, and on the very basis of name, I approve. Although it's going to get confusing now, having to refer to Walker. I've already written 2 articles referring to Walker, and I'm like, that's my name. So you can read some of the details on Cash Valley Daily. I didn't go through like a whole blow-by-blow of every single thing that he's done in his career, but Cameron Walker was he was an athlete. He played up at Ricks College way back when it was still called Ricks College. That's you can tell how long ago that was.
It might age him to a certain degree.
To a certain degree. But then completed his schooling and athletics career at Southern Virginia. He was a baseball player. That's what he did. Then, I don't know exactly what happened in between him graduating. Well, no, excuse me, he went to Arkansas, completed his Juris Doctorate. And then he ended up at UVU. I don't know if there was a span of time, and I couldn't even nail down, like in my quick research, like how long he spent at UVU. I thought I saw somewhere that said 7 years, and then I couldn't track down where I thought I saw that, so I maybe just made it up.
Well, because I thought his wife was there too.
Yeah, so like I've not completely stalked his profile. Maybe I should have checked his LinkedIn or something if he's even got one there. But he spent time at UVU, and interesting thing there, he was involved in a bunch of different things, improving some facilities. Was there around the time, again, I couldn't nail down if he was there when the transition happened, but UVU went into the WAC around about 2013, I believe. And then he ends up at UCF, Central Florida, in 2018. And that's where he begins having like specific roles in athletics. He was like an associate athletics director at UCF in 2018. He was under Danny White. And then while he was at UCF, they make the transition into the Big 12. And then right as UCF was going into the Big 12, Cameron Walker actually left with Danny White to go to Tennessee. And then that's where Walker ended up taking on his role of, what was his full title? Senior Deputy Athletics Director and Chief Strategy Officer. All that fancy stuff.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
That's where he begins taking on a lot more roles. He's taking in a kind of a senior position, not like the senior positions, but like basically the deputy roles, where he was playing big administrative roles first in their basketball program, and then most recently he actually switched from being administrator, taking responsibilities in the basketball area to who's actually over football for the last year. What will be a year and a half. He'll assume his office on October 6th. It was somewhere in my article. They announced it. Yeah, I put it at the very bottom, October 6th. So, yeah, he's been involved in NIL, facilities, all these different things. Again, taking on those deputy roles. So that's where all of his background is. And so with all that said, can actually kind of address where you were leading this. And I guess the other thing to point out, I mean, when you mentioned he went to Rick's College, this is a dude who's from Idaho, from southern Idaho-ish. Is Rexburg in southern Idaho or is it more central?
Southeast Idaho.
Southeast Idaho.
That's what they would classify. So
yeah,
for those who are wanting somebody who is from the area and understands the Utah culture, or the culture generally, here's a guy who grew up in Rexburg, went to Rick's College, spent extensive time at UVU.
Yeah, this guy's spent a whole lot of time in the Mormon corridor. He knows what it's like around here.
Absolutely knows Utah. For those who are wanting somebody who's been at a high-level institution where a lot of money is coming in with fundraising, understanding, competing at a high level, and moving a program forward. He spent time at UCF, what they were moving forward, but more importantly, he has spent time at a significant role at Tennessee. And Tennessee athletics over the last several years has definitely been improving and is one of the top performing athletic departments in the country.
Yeah, they've been pretty darn good in basketball. They've been pretty darn good in football. Haven't quite gotten over the top in either sport, but they've been good. They've had good NIL. They've had good overall performance. So, and they're not backing down to certain athletes. They got rid of Nico Iamaleava. Yeah.
No, the one thing that maybe is there's another camp that was wanting somebody who has experience in the big chair.
Yeah.
Now that is the one thing that he doesn't necessarily have on his resume.
Yeah.
He's been in some pretty sizable chairs with some pretty important roles and responsibilities, but the buck has not stopped with him.
Yeah, he's not been the one making final decisions. He's not been the one organizing the whole, organization. Been the guy at the top and having to tell everybody else, here's what you're doing, here's what you're doing. He's not done the directing. He's merely been doing some of the administrative, having somebody tell him what responsibilities he'll be taking on, and then going out and doing those responsibilities with varying levels of oversight, depending on what position he's been in. So yeah, he doesn't have that. But I think, and without knowing exactly who the other finalists were and their experience, whether or not there were other, I think there were other, candidates who were athletic directors, but I think it shows the priorities that Utah State has, what they wanted. They wanted somebody with some kind of local tie. Cameron Walker's not from Cache Valley, but he's dang near close to it. He basically has skipped over Cache Valley in a couple of the places he's lived.
Right.
And he also has the experience at those Power 4 levels. He's also a guy who I noted UVU and UCS transition into a new conference. He's been at two different places that have transferred to a new conference while he was there or just before or just after. So he's the guy who has an experience with an athletics department in transition. And then he also has the experience at that highest level being with an SEC team. We saw where Utah State went with its last athletics director hire. They brought in a deputy athletic director from Ohio State and someone who also had experience at sitting in I forget what role she had at the Big Ten. She was in some administrative role fairly high up in the Big Ten conference itself. So they want someone with connections and experience at those highest levels, But the fact that you see Cameron Walker having some of these other specific things, local ties to universities who have been in transition between conferences, I don't think that's a coincidence in the slightest. I very much think that they saw those and said, hey, you have the experience, you have the, you've been in these positions, maybe not sitting in the big chair, but you know what this process looks like. You've been through it twice. He's going to have picked up on some things as far as transitioning to a newer and tougher conference, along with having an understanding of what it takes to perform at the highest level in athletics. So, yeah, he doesn't have experience leading an entire, athletics department, but Utah State wasn't necessarily going to get that kind of guy that has all the things you want. You could find someone who's led, a Sun Belt or Conference USA athletics department, and that's
or
fine. Or Big Sky. You could have found someone who's led an athletic department at that level, but are they going to be able to understand all of the nuances of being in, FBS or in the Mountain West, with the Mountain West and their basketball, Mountain West in terms of moving from the Mountain West to the Pac-12? Are they going to have all of those experiences and have insight into the nuances of that kind of transition? I don't think any of the other candidates would have necessarily had that in the same way that Walker does.
Yeah. So, there are a few other things to point out. He's had a lot of insight, or I should say oversight, for compliance, legal affairs. The fact that he has a law degree means that he's going to approach things with an analytical mind, approach things in a different way.
Utah State's dealing with how many lawsuits right now?
Yes.
Suing and being sued?
Legal affairs are important right now. But also NIL initiatives, facilities, things like that. But, just as he doesn't have that experience sitting in the big chair where the buck stops with him, I don't know what his experience is in hiring coaches. So that'll be the interesting thing to find out when he arrives, because not only is that something to look at, I mean, he's been around some good programs that have had some success in finding good coaches. So he has seen that. He's been involved with that. So that is encouraging. But also, like, how will he? The other thing that'll be interesting to watch is how he assembles his staff. Who on this current staff stays, or how many of them get swapped out? Because when Sabo left, it was clear that nobody on this staff was in a position to step in to that interim position, and so this current staff needs some help. And so, what will he do to address that? Who else will he bring in? Who will he swap out? And all part of this process of helping Utah State move forward into a new conference.
Yeah, like an athletic director is only as good as the deputies they hire. Typically.
Yes.
You need good help as an administrator, and you need to be able to hire good coaches as well. The last few athletic directors have done pretty well at hiring coaches. John Hartwell just, I don't know, it seemed like he couldn't miss at times. Obviously, he wasn't perfect, but he hired a bunch of good head coaches. Diana Sabo, or heck, you go to Jerry Bovee as the interim AD. He hires Danny Sprinkle.
Yep.
He nailed it. Diana Sabo, she hired Jared Calhoun, Bronco Mendenhall. She also hired Wes Brooks, who's, I know we're still kind of waiting to see
Jury's
if his,
still out a little bit there.
Yeah, but his recruiting class looks pretty darn good. So we'll see if they finally make that turnaround this year. But so those athletic directors made their mark, at least in part, by hiring good coaches. That basically was the most positive thing about John Hartwell's tenure, is how good he was at hiring coaches, because that can make or break programs. Because wasn't it him that hired Manny and Rob Nielsen? I can't remember exactly when that timeline happened, but those things changed the soccer and volleyball programs, among other hires that he made. So, and again, he wasn't perfect. So I think he was also overseeing Gary 2.0. So, I know he was supposedly pressured.
He was kind of pressured into that. So
it's like
he was strong-armed.
Yeah. So there's some nuance there, but hiring coaches is a big part, and it's kind of your most public-facing part about being an AD, because everyone else just has a vague idea of how good are you at fundraising? That's kind of nebulous measurement. Like you can kind of get vague ideas of how good you are, and it's just like at the end of the day, do you have enough money or not? I don't know. There's not like metrics you can measure fundraising by, because it's not always public knowledge how much money the AD is responsible for generating.
Yeah,
that's not something that's easy to measure. But
yeah, ADs are usually measured by their coaching hires.
Yeah.
If there are any facility improvements, can they fundraise to get those done?
Yep.
But certainly in an era right now that Utah State finds itself in, will the institution be positioned to be successful in the new conference, in the Pac-12? Can they be, instead of somebody who did well in the Mountain West, can they be somebody who succeeds in the Pac-12? Because the stakes are just continue to get higher and higher.
Yeah, I think the thing that Walker's going to have to show is that he can get Utah State closer in terms of their revenue and budget to other schools in the Pac-12, because right now Utah State is basically second to last, Texas State being the last, as far as their budgeting, how much revenue and how much spending they're able to do. And so tackling things like ticket revenue, that's probably one of the most pressing issues for Utah State's revenue generation, is the fact that they are way down in terms of how much money they generate through tickets. Some of that just being tied to attendance, some of that being tied to capacity. That's part of why people want there to be a bigger football stadium. We had this conversation last week. It's like Utah State is capped in terms of how much revenue it can get with a smaller football stadium and kind of a middle of the pack basketball arena as far as capacity, although not bad.
And a fan base that only produces 17,000 at home football games.
Yeah, so it's like there's a big issue where Utah State is severely lacking in ticket sales revenue, where they've done pretty well in every other area relative to their conference peers, and generate money for their conference via bowl games and the NCAA tournament. So they can generate revenue in other areas, but that's one in which they're struggling. Can Walker come in and fix that? And I have to say, I'm getting increasingly thrown off by saying Walker every other sentence. I'm trying to find ways around that because it's just throwing me off.
Why not? It's fine. I'm sure it's really easy for the rest of us.
Yeah, it's easier for you, but I'm saying my own name. It's tricky. I have a hard enough time. There's another Jason in the building, and another Jason I work around with football and Utah State coverage. It's
don't interview him when JD Walker is on here with you.
Oh, I think we're going to have to bring him on and probably just push you out the door just so we can have
it's a Walker trifecta.
An all Walker interview.
Family reunion.
But yeah, so there's a lot of issues that Cam Walker's going to have to deal with. I think that'll be something that you can try and measure him by, is how close to get Utah State to that upper level of funding in this money arms race that has skyrocketed. It's college, sports has always been kind of a money arms race, but in this NIL revenue sharing era, it's getting increasingly so. Utah State's been balling on a budget for years in basketball, in football. Now they're trying to take that step forward. Look at how much they're paying their football coach. Look how much they're paying their basketball coach. They're trying to step into that next level. Will Cameron Walker get them there?
All right, we got a lot of texts rolling in. We'll get to those. Some texts that came in over the weekend. Some about this topic, some on other topics that were talked about at the press conference today with Bronco Mendenhall, and
we're going to get
the
to
football game on Saturday. So we'll get to all that. If you want to weigh in, we'd still love to hear from you. 435-339-0321 on the Young Power Sports Logan text line.
Have you thought about your furnace lately? Of course not. It's hot outside. Now's a great time to start thinking about replacing it or having it serviced for fall and winter. Advanced Heating and Air will help you get some of the industry's best rebates on a new high-efficient York furnace installed in your home. Or one of Advanced Heating and Air's service professionals can service your furnace for the upcoming winter season. Call today, 752-7272, or schedule a free estimate at advancedheating-ac.com. York. Install confidence.
This is Jordan with Primrose Home Care and Hospice. When it comes to home care, it's important for you to know you do have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of home care services, remember Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient, not the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Call for a free home safety evaluation, 787-1369, and visit primrosecare.com. Primrose Home Care and Hospice. We're your home team.
Upgrade your storage with a shed that's built to last. At Top Shed, we're making sheds great again. Whether you need space for tools, toys, or a backyard getaway, our sheds are custom built with quality craftsmanship. And the best part, we'll bring it right to you and build on site across southern Idaho and northern Utah, Preston, Malad, Logan, Tremonton, and more. With cooler days ahead, now is the time to design, build, and custom deliver your shed for year-round use. Top Shed, making sheds great again. Call 435-760-7766 or visit topshedusa.com.
For 80 years, West Motor Company has been helping Cache Valley drive home in a vehicle they love. And around here, people know Ford and Ram cost less in Preston. Right now, you could save over $10,000 off a brand new Ram heavy-duty Bighorn, or over $12,000 off Dodge Charger RT, and over $5,000 off Jeep Grand Cherokee. Say it with me. Ford and Ram cost less in Preston. Always have, always will. West Motor Company, 80 years strong and still driven to serve you.
Talking the sports you care about. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. My microphone is drifting. So
yeah, Eric's like slunched over. I gotta start talking for a minute so he can adjust his
I'm
microphone.
going to have you take clear off some of his texts here while I do some mechanical adjusting.
Yeah, Eric's got the good old Allen wrench in his hand there. So let's go through some of these texts, starting with let's see, I think 6021. Texting in Saturday. I think some of these might have been for the Aggie call. Just a reminder, this isn't the number for the Aggie call. I keep forgetting it. It's in my phone somewhere. I'm going to have Eric plug that in a second here.
If you want to be on Aggie call or on game day, like before the show, before the game, for a score prediction, that number is 435-554-1175. 1175.
So, yeah.
Not to say you still couldn't text us.
Yeah, and you can always text us if you have
just
a thought.
It's going to be a little bit before we get to your text.
If you have a thought on Saturday and you want us to talk about it, just send it in. We'll get to it. But, yeah, so 6021 saying, I think the difference in Barnes is coaching. Last coach played favorites and wouldn't give him a chance. He now has coaches who believe in him and let Bryson be Bryson. Also, have you heard anything on the status of Ike? I know there's a couple people texting in about Bryson Barnes, but quick one, status of Ike Larson, to be determined. Bronco was asked about this. We didn't cut it up because it was like a 3-word answer, but asked, will Ike Larson be practicing this week? And he said it was to be determined.
Look,
if I were determined yet.
If I were to tell you my thoughts on that, like, do I think we will see Ike Larson in an Aggie uniform this year? I'm leaning much more towards I don't think we'll see him on the field this year for Utah State. Then maybe it's just a matter of time before he's back.
I think the difference is like this is his last year. He's not getting another year of eligibility as far as I'm aware. I don't think there's a loophole or anything that he can get to get another season. So this is it. And if he would have transferred, he probably would have transferred already. And he's been sending a bunch of cryptic tweets and Instagrams and all that, seeming to indicate that he's still around. But I am kind of with you, where like my assumption was he might not appear for the Aggies at all. But if he's going to come back for the Aggies, if that's the path that we're assuming, it's not going to be this week.
No.
He wouldn't be eligible to practice until late in the week, at which point, there are starters who, if they don't practice until like Friday, they don't play.
He's got to earn a jersey number.
Yeah.
And Utah State never, as an institution, never set a timeline on his return.
Yeah.
That was a tweet from somebody else that put a date out there.
Yeah, just a report that it was going to be 6 weeks. But even assuming that's 100% accurate, that 6 weeks was wasn't a 6 weeks of the season. It was from that point on a Friday, and it would be up until this Friday. He's not playing against Vanderbilt. No. That's just not happening. No. The absolute earliest he shows up is for Hawaii after the bye week.
And that may be, if there's a situation that allows him a chance to come back, maybe that might be the best time to get that settled. Look, we talked about this last week. Ike Larson is a very talented football player, and Utah State could use his skills on the field. But Bronco Mendenhall and his leadership team have set a standard. These are things that we won't stand for. I'm not exactly sure what those things were that happened. I'm not trying to suggest that I know what happened because I wasn't there. But they've clearly stated that if you violate these team principles, this is going to be the action, and this is what needs to happen for you to come back. And doesn't matter if you're a star player or some guy deep on the depth chart, the rules are set. And so I applaud the leadership team, the athletes themselves, and Coach Mendenhall and his coaching staff for laying it all out and being very, very clear. This is what it is. This is the consequence, and this is what it takes to come back. So I would hope that Ike Larson could work his way back to Utah State. They could use his skill and his ability, but it's also clear the team is moving forward too. Yeah, and so if it doesn't work out that Ike can return to play for Utah State, they are developing other guys to fill those roles.
Yeah. Let's move on to some other text. We will get to Bryson Barnes. That comes up in a later text that we've got here. So we'll get to the Bryson Barnes point after we get through some of these other texts. 8577 saying, how come we haven't seen Anoka McGow play much for the Aggies defense? I thought it'd be a stud this year. Well, he was injured against Air Force. They didn't release an injury report, and I forgot to check if he played much against McNeese, but it's entirely possible that he missed that game as well due to injury, not necessarily for performance issues.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the Anoka McGow situation. I can't elaborate on that.
Yeah. 9776 saying, any ideas on watch parties or places showing the game next weekend? All the sports bars in town open at 11. Not the end of the world to miss the first 15 minutes.
I haven't heard of any, but if anybody wants to host one, let us know. It'd be great to get the word out for Aggie fans to come get some brunch and watch a football game together. Grab some good food while you're if you can. It's watch parties are really fun. So if anybody's hosting one on Saturday morning, let us know.
And then 2444, as we get back to Bryson Barnes, says Bryson Barnes is playing at an incredible level so far this season. It's early, but I'm starting to wonder if he might challenge for one of the best single-season QB performances in USU history. Jordan Love in 2018, Logan Bonner 2021. I'm starting to think that he might have a shot at becoming the first Aggie to win Mountain West Conference Offensive Player of the Year. So I'll end up releasing more about this in the Monday Cool. Mind you, I go further and talking about Utah State. Heck, we might talk about this in the second hour. I'll say this about Bryson Barnes because there's been some discourse that is partial overreaction, but also justified in praising the performance of Bryson Barnes because he is unquestionably playing good.
He's had a great 2-week stretch.
Yeah, and even then, his first 2 weeks, he wasn't really, he was good. He wasn't, great, wasn't fantastic. He was good. He had to deal a lot with sacks.
Yeah.
And he was looking very mortal at times with how many times he was sacked, but Tom Brady looked mortal when you sacked him a million times. So does Patrick Mahomes. Anyone looks bad when you're getting pressured as much as Bryson Barnes was in the first 2 weeks. Give him a bit more space, give him a bit more time to throw, get him in the right situations, and he is fit the bill exactly what Utah State needs. Broncos very praiseworthy of Bryson Barnes. There's a long quote. I should have pulled it for this. Do you have it from post game?
This is from today.
Okay.
He talked about the growth of Bryson Barnes, and it starts in evaluating him in the spring, and then looking at how he is now. Because I think that's because going back to one of those earlier texts about comparing Bryson this year to last year, which is not really a fair comparison. Maybe there were coaches who were playing favorites. You and I definitely disagree with that based on what we saw in practices and in games, Spencer Petras versus Bryson Barnes. But here is some things that Bronco had to say about evaluating Bryson Barnes and watching his growth from the offseason into where we see him today.
So I was really impressed in the offseason, not only with leadership, but work ethic, and obviously the things that are apparent to everyone, the grit, the resolve, the physical toughness. not only the physical presence, but again, the vocal leadership. As we started playing football in the spring, it's always difficult to tell as you're installing and you're working against yourselves, especially when the quarterbacks aren't live, what that truly will look like. But we knew he'd be a very capable runner. We knew that he'd be good with his legs. I would say what's probably a pleasant surprise is the accuracy and the ability he has throwing the football and the number of different types of throws that he's making. So that continues to expand and grow in terms of our evaluation and seeing what he's capable of there, which we didn't have quite enough sample size in the offseason or the spring to tell that.
And his throwing has improved. Last year, he wasn't a great thrower. He was a good thrower. He wasn't a great thrower. And last year, the offensive identity was better suited for Spencer Petras. Now, could there an argument be made to suggest that if Bryson was your designated quarterback, do you adjust the offense around him? Yeah, you probably could. But the offense had been built with its personnel and everything in the spring to run a certain way that Spencer Petras was better suited to execute. Now, Bryson Barnes has improved as a player too. He has become, he's got a little better touch on his throw. He can make seemingly more throws than he did last year, but he's also a guy that can move the chains with his feet and stretch the offense, stretch the play out a little bit more, give the team a little bit more of a chance. And in the postgame, Coach Mendenhall had a lot of praise on Barnes, comparing him to some pretty high-profile quarterbacks that he's coached before, but also how he's grown as a player too.
Yeah, so I forgot to go grab the actual cut. Again, it's a pretty long one, but I posted it on social media. I'll just read off parts of this where Bronco says, quote, "He's exceptional in every way," talking about Bryson Barnes. "He's also being used in a magical way by Coach McGivern. Bryson does a lot on his own and improvises on his own after the plays. A number of plays that are designed right are working." And then he says, "I've had good quarterbacks. Taysom Hill, pretty good quarterback. Bryce Perkins, I believe that was at Virginia, pretty good quarterback. Devin Dampier, pretty good quarterback. Bryson Barnes is a really good football player." And he says, "That would have been reason enough to take the Utah State job if I knew Bryson truly who he was and how he is. He's tough and he's relentless in his preparation. He's exceptional and is exactly what Utah State needs as a football program, any era, any time. As the leader and the style of play, he represents us perfectly well." And yeah, there's improvements that he's made in like looking back and comparing the whole Bryson Barnes, Spencer Petras thing. I still shudder every time somebody says, "Oh, we would have won the New Mexico game with Bryson Barnes in at quarterback." And it's like, we went over this ad nauseum during the season. He scored 45 points in that game. Bryson Barnes ain't doing a dang thing to change that. Like, he probably would have just scored the same number. He'd just done it in a different way. And especially
offense wasn't the problem.
Yeah, offense wasn't the problem. They averaged something like, their offense, they averaged like 30-plus points per game. Like the entire last season, they averaged 31.9 points per game, 36 in the nation. Like, they were doing just fine. Now, later in the season, when they started focusing on using Bryson Barnes, 41 points against San Diego State, 37 points against Colorado State. But they had 55 using largely Spencer Petras, except for Bryson on a couple of gadget plays on the goal line. So, again, this narrative that things would have been way different if Bryson had been playing last year, I just categorically disagree with it. But the fact that he is playing great right now, that is very much true and improved. Like, for instance, last year, and really for all of his career, Bryson Barnes has been kind of a terrible downfield passer. Like, anything beyond 10 yards, he really struggled with. Accuracy-wise, touch, threw a ton of interceptions. And I've got the numbers. For his whole career prior to 2025, for one, he only threw about 32% of his passes beyond 10 yards. Less than a third of his passes traveled more than 10 yards down the field. Really low. Not absurdly low, but pretty darn low. He was not confident enough and often was not trusted to throw the ball, beyond just some short routes. And then even when he did throw those, again, it's still 30% of his throws. It's not like he's never doing it, but he only completed 45% of those passes, which, mind you, at this range, you're not completing like 60+%. But He's down in the mid to low 40s. His touchdown to interception ratio was 13-13. So he threw 13 interceptions, the same number of touchdowns he threw, and he averaged 10.6 yards per attempt. Like, just not good numbers as a thrower, just poor. Again, the interceptions themselves, how often he was giving the ball away. Anytime he goes beyond 10 yards, he was just as likely to throw an interception as he was a touchdown. But this year, for one, he's more confident. I said he threw 32% of his passes beyond 10 yards. This year, it's 41%. He's throwing a full 10% more of his passes beyond 10 yards. He is more confident at the very least. And his coaches are putting him in a position to where some of those passes are open, and he has the confidence to throw those. He's also completing 55% of his passes in that range. So he's upped his completion percentage by 10%. And then he's got a 6-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, and he's averaging 13.5 yards per attempt. So he is just a drastically improved downfield thrower. Like last year, he ranked like 121st, or is it 121st or 131st in passer rating, NFL passer rating, in downfield passes. 121st, 131st, like bottom 10 in the NCAA among qualified quarterbacks. And this year, he's in like the 50s or 60s. Like, just drastically improved. It's not just that they're hiding his weaknesses that he had last year, which maybe you could have tried to make that argument, but no. They're not hiding his weaknesses and having to do him other things. He is improving on what was a very big weakness, including last year. So again, if you're talking Bryson Barnes would have done this or that last year, the Bryson that's playing right now is not the Bryson that was there last year.
He is a different dude.
He is better than who he was last year at Utah State and better than who he was when he was at Utah.
Yeah. So yeah, he's give him credit for the work that he's put in. Give him credit for the coaching he's received. But he is a different guy than he was last year. So for you and I are on the same page here. We can't compare today's Bryson Barnes to last year's Bryson Barnes. And the challenges with the Utah State football team with their wins and losses did not necessarily come down to offense.
Yeah, they did not. That had everything to do with the defense. And the defense being improved is part of why the Aggies are 3-1. Last year with Bryson as a starter, they went 1-1. The one game they won, they allowed 20 points. The game they lost, they allowed 42. Who would have thunk it?
Yeah.
Defense plays a role in this.
Imagine. 2444, just as a follow-up. While I'll always be a fan of any current or former Aggie quarterback, I think what makes Barnes so endearing to fans and fun to root for is the toughness and competitiveness that he plays with. Hard not to love a guy that puts his body on the line every game, fighting for every yard as a runner, blocking for teammates in the open field, and anything else that he can do to help the team win. I've had a blast watching him play this season.
Yeah, anybody who shows toughness or grit, the big hits, the taking a big hit and getting right back up. I think people liked Bonner in that sense. He got plastered on like every other play, but he got back up like every time. Heck, he broke his foot in like the middle of a play and still, made the throw. Against UNLV and was still playing up until the very end. You like guys who show that toughness, and Bryson Barnes done that. He's, laid out a couple of guys, juked a few guys. And so fans love watching those guys because, football is a contact sport, and people will love football for the fact that it's a contact sport.
Yeah.
And so guys who lean into that, you tend to really love him. And he's also the kind of guy that opponents will respect because of that toughness. You hope it doesn't, end up...
you don't want it to cost him plays and then games and then...
Well, and his body.
Games.
Like, that's the thing. You don't want him to cost his body. Like, Bryson kind of acknowledged that in his post-game where it's like, you think he was asked about laying out a guy. He's like, yeah, sometimes I got to take better care of my body. He's like acknowledging that it's like...
It can take a toll.
It's probably not the smartest play. Like, there's a reason that quarterbacks wear the red jersey in practice. There's a reason that they slide. There's a reason they're told to run out of bounds and not go, shoulder to shoulder with these big linebackers because it leads to injuries. Just ask Drew Bledsoe how that went for him.
We got more texts we need to get to and more comments about the new director of athletics hire for Utah State. Cameron Walker coming to Utah State from Tennessee, spent time at UCF, spent time at UVU, grew up in Rexburg. Want to get your reactions to the announcement that came down yesterday with Utah State finding their new AD. 435-339-0321.
Express time.
Safety and comfort on the road are Express Tire's top priority. As a Point S team member, count on peace of mind with an inclusive warranty that includes nationwide protection. Any brand, any size, better pricing. No appointment necessary on the highway at 3200 North Main.
Express Tire, tires for less.
Cold weather is here, which means you'll be using your gas fireplace again. Let Advanced Fireplace and Stove, the 4-time Best of Northern Utah Gold Medal winner, help you get it ready for those cold Cache Valley winters. Schedule a service call with one of their service pros today and receive 20% off if you mention this ad. If you're building a new home, Advanced Fireplace and Stove can design and install a heat and glow fireplace. From traditional to modern, Heat and Glow has something for every design and every budget. Find out more at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
This is Catherine Buse with Cache Valley Bank, and we understand that concerns about fraud can weigh heavily on you. Your peace of mind is important to us. That's why we're committed to looking out for you and your family. Our team keeps a vigilant eye on your account. If you ever have concerns or need support, we're just a call or visit away. Whether you need advice or just someone to talk to, our friendly staff is ready to help. We're more than just a bank. We're your neighbors and we care about your security. Visit your local branch today. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Spend less time at the post office. With Formax and Mint mailing systems from Les Olson IT, you can quickly, accurately, and easily process your outgoing mail and even save on postage. Fold your documents, stuff and seal your envelopes, print addresses, weigh and measure to apply proper postage, all with the click of a button. With multiple model options available, you're sure to find a Formax solution and Mint mailing device that perfectly fits your business needs.
Les Olson IT.
It doesn't matter who you root for. The Full Court Press has all the high school sports covered. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Young Power Sports Logan is already geared up for winter. Don't wait for the snow. Get ready now with blowout pricing on Polaris and Ski-Doo snowmobiles. Up to $4,000 off MSRP. Is also the place of the largest climb and winter gear showroom in northern Utah, Idaho, and Wyoming. We've got jackets, helmets, boots, everything you need to ride in comfort and style. Young Power Sports Logan, your headquarters for winter fun. Utah State announcing the selection of Cameron Walker over the weekend as the new director of athletics for Utah State. Getting your reactions to that. Also, reactions to Utah State's football game over the weekend. Mountain West schedule as it was. A variety of different things on the docket today people are reacting to. 435-339-0321. 8968 texting in. It was a great game. It was a lot of fun to be on the other end of the butt kicking. Gives me some slight hope with the game upcoming. I think the Aggies will at least compete. And then how good will this guy be at hiring basketball coaches?
Hopefully we don't have to find out about that for several years. I don't really want to see Cam Walker have to hire a basketball coach until like at least 2028.
That would be great. So retaining may be the better skill set.
Yeah, that may be the thing.
Than hiring.
Like Diana Sabo had to hire a coach and then she had to retain him. Like basically all within like 1 year. So get that work done. Eventually got it done.
Well, and she tried to retain Sprinkle too.
Yeah, she tried to retain Sprinkle, had to hire Coach Calhoun. So yeah, retaining coaches. It's something, and had to retain Manny Martins as well. So different things, different challenges with these sports. So, and then also one other thing, 5338. Just jumping back on we're talking about Bryson Barnes before we jump a little further into Cameron Walker. 5338 saying, I like toughness in a quarterback, but not too much toughness. If he gets knocked out of a game, the Aggies could be in big trouble.
Agreed.
They very much would be. I mean, gotta love Anthony Garcia, Jacob Conover. I'm not 100% sure who's actually the true backup quarterback. Like, if Bryson Barnes goes out, do they actually go to Conover, who is the listed backup? Or is Anthony Garcia transition to just playing full-time quarterback?
That is probably my one big gripe about Saturday's game is that Bryson had already racked up a ton of yards and a bunch of touchdowns. It just seemed like he was stat chasing in
He's
the fourth
there for
quarter.
2 series in the third quarter.
But, I mean, the lead was well in hand. I don't know why he played anything in the fourth quarter.
He didn't. I don't think he played a second in the fourth quarter.
I'm not sure about that. We'll have to double check that.
I'm going to double check that.
Conover ran the ball once and threw the ball once. So Utah State only had 1 offensive series with Conover in all of the fourth quarter?
Well, he didn't necessarily do it. I mean, I wasn't watching a lot of this because I left to go to the press conference. But let's see.
But while we figure that out, I mean,
Barnes' last moment on the field was with 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. And that was on a 4-play drive. They went 89 yards. Like, they were in there for 2 possessions in the third quarter. Like, and that's pretty much what I thought. They took it from, what was it, 34-7 to 48-7, which is standard practice to have him in. Like, I felt like that was pretty much how long, until you got like a 40-point lead sometime in the third. Again, that's what pretty much every single football school does.
Well, okay, so he didn't play the fourth quarter, but still, that I didn't really see Conover acting much as a quarterback, like throwing a lot at him to say, okay, if Bryson gets hurt, do we have confidence that this guy can come in and take over?
Well, it's a 41-point game. You're not going to throw 20-yard play action passes.
No, but is he going to do anything other than just hand the ball off?
No.
So
you're not going to run up the score. It's like,
I'm not asking him to run up the score. I'm asking him to run the offense.
Well,
and I didn't really. It was
running the offense is running up the score against an FCS team.
Maybe.
There's also.
I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of Jacob Conover. That's really all that I'll say.
You like to.
We can get into the minutia and debate and whatever, but I wish I could have seen a little bit more out of Conover.
Yeah, you like to, but the unwritten rules of having that big of a lead mean you're not going to be really testing, even if he's your backup. You're still running a conservative offense because you're trying to get the game over with.
Yeah, then put him in an earlier series, even if you're still, Bryson might come back out again. I just would have liked to have seen him get a little bit more play to see can this guy really lead the team if Bryson gets hurt. Okay, a couple more texts coming in, 3714. I found a video online where he is being interviewed by Tennessee media answering 40 minutes of questions regarding NIL. You watch 10 minutes of that, and you can tell this guy is sharp.
I have to go look that up, see if I get an idea. Of course, we're going to hear from him likely this week. They said they're going to do a press conference this week, just didn't give any details, so probably just trying to figure things out.
Yeah, I think they're still working through some details getting him out of Tennessee. At 2444 to that point. Would love to hear from the new AD if you guys could have him on the show. Yeah, I would like to get him on. We will work on that.
We'll see how quickly we can get him on. Obviously, we'll pull stuff from his introductory press conference, and I'm already pulling up a list of things we're going to ask. But it depends, because sometimes you get limited on how many questions you can ask.
Yeah. But yeah, we're definitely going to try to do that. And then 8968, Jason, I just saw the Davis High quarterback has vomited to Boise. I'm so disappointed.
I mean, committed? He had committed to Boise. And apparently was also offered by BYU, but then said, no thanks, I'm going to Boise.
Maybe since it's Boise, vomited is the right word.
I can just imagine. Yeah, although the tradition is to have Davis High School students or anyone in Kaysville end up at Utah State. I swear Kaysville is like the number one supplier of, new coming, I was going to say immigrants, I don't know if that's the right word, but relocations from within Utah. It's always Kaysville to Logan. Just always seems to happen, usually because of Utah State.
5338 just as a follow-up. I wish that the Aggies played a cleaner game Saturday night. They could have probably had another 10 points on the board.
I think so, at least 7. That Javen Jacobs fumble at the goal line, which, I forgot to go back and watch and see if it was actually a fumble or not. Because I got 2 good looks now. It's like, maybe not. So I need to go double check that.
Then 3714, before we hit a timeout, 2 other finalists were apparently Kent Haslam, AD at Montana, and Mark Hill, Deputy AD at Kentucky.
Yeah, there's been a lot of names thrown around. Yeah, of the 2 finalists, I mean, not bad. There were a lot of good candidates. Like, I'm not going to say that Cameron Walker is the only good candidate. But based on the names I've heard and what I've learned about Cameron Walker, it's about as good as you're going to get in terms of on paper. Mind you, all of these guys, like people say, oh, this is a home run hire. This is fantastic. It's like, you don't know that.
No.
You just don't.
Sure didn't know that about the last one.
Yeah, you're just being optimistic. And it's the same way with head coaches. Everyone says, this is a home run hire. This is a home run hire. You don't know that. You're just now swinging. The ball is maybe leaving the bat.
Yeah, but certainly a lot of his credentials, his experience, check a lot of boxes that seem to be important to a lot of people.
Yeah.
In who that next hire should be. Quick timeout with some additional thoughts coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
New news from the Riverwoods Conference Center. All-inclusive pricing is now available for every occasion. Imagine your dream wedding, your daughter's quinceañera, corporate retreats, family parties, business conferences, or expos. Whether you're searching for a small private area, a breathtaking outdoor reception by the river, or an event that accommodates up to 2,000 people, the Riverwoods Conference Center makes event planning effortless with its perfect combination of beauty, service, catering, and now all-inclusive pricing. Visit theriverwoods.com or call 750-5151 for more information today.
Hi, this is Brooke Stevenson.
Ty Smith.
And David Castor with Adams Wealth Advisors. We're truly honored to be named Best of Northern Utah Gold winner for the Best Financial Planner. This community means everything to us, and we're grateful for every customer who made this possible. Thank you for your trust.
Advisory services offered through Adams Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor. For important disclosures and more information, visit adamswealthadvisors.com. That's adamswealthadvisors.com.
It's time to make the outdoor living improvements you've talked about. Castellite in Logan has everything you need to turn your backyard get-together into a backyard event. If you need pavers for a walkway, a retaining wall for your garden, or to reshape a flower bed, or a fire pit to roast marshmallows, think Castellite. Their experts will reduce your DIY stress for brick, block, rock, paver, and tile. Go where the pros go. Online at Castellite.com.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. A few years ago, I saw this sign hanging in a gas station. It said price, quality, service. Pick 2 out of the 3. Now, it's funny, and I did laugh, but at My Mattress, we don't even want to do business unless we can do all 3. Price, quality, and service. We have a 90-day sleep guarantee, 90-day price guarantee, and we will answer the phone if you have a warranty concern. At My Mattress, we deliver, we have financing, we strive to be price, quality, and service every day. Isn't it time to sleep exceptionally? Only at My Mattress.
Join the show by calling 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Keep your car running at its best with the help from Napa Auto Parts. If you need a new battery, if you need new wiper blades, man, we had some rain today. How did your wiper blades hold up? Napa has the best brands. It can even help you with installation right on the spot at the store. Locally owned from Preston to Providence. By the way, College AD reporting that Cam Walker, 5 years, $540,000 annually. It's part of his deal to become the new AD at Utah State. Pulling him away from Tennessee. And certainly looks like he's got some good resume, good pedigree, and a part of some good programs, especially those that were involved in moving conferences as Utah State is in the midst of moving to the Pac-12. So his experience looks like it'll definitely pay off in Utah State's transition.
Yeah, definitely. A couple texts. We had 8968 following up on his where he talked about Davis High quarterback vomiting to Boise State. He says, I meant committed, but my reaction was probably closer. Fair enough.
Yeah, that's fair.
And just like, don't know how some words sneak in. It's auto correct. Who knows why it would decide? Because that's sometimes like my phone will be like, you meant this word. I was like, no, the word has nothing to do with the sentence I'm typing, but it is.
And then 2444, I did find it interesting that Conover came in as a backup QB on Saturday. I'd like to think that Garcia is the backup, given his versatility and upside. I guess we'll see what happens if the opportunity presents itself in a competitive game, but hopefully it doesn't.
Yeah, my pet theory is that Anthony Garcia is the true backup quarterback, but I don't know that for certain. I know he has the athleticism to play wide receiver, and that's a big part of why he is. I don't think anyone else in the QB room necessarily has that. But I would think that Conover and Garcia would have a pretty healthy battle for who would actually play should it come to it. I think that just with Garcia being a key part of the offense, when they took the whole offense off, they're like, we're going to put Jacob Conover in at the very least. They maybe could have thrown Garcia in a quarterback to get him some quarterback reps. But so I think that's certainly a point in favor of Jacob Conover, along with the fact that he is the listed backup quarterback. But yeah, I don't think that Garcia is necessarily automatically the third string.
No, yeah, and we talked about this in the post game, not this specific topic, but about Utah State continuing to throw a lot of different looks out there. That they're forcing opponents to burn a lot of extra film to evaluate Utah State. This may be one of those things that they are going to reserve and hold on to. That they will let opponents think that Jacob Conover is the backup.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things you can still run with Garcia that you're already running with Barnes.
Yeah, true. All right, that's going to do it for this hour. Still a lot more next hour. I'd love to continue to get your reactions to what happened over the weekend here on 106.9 FM, The Fan.
Is above the noise. When we break down the NFL's best teams, the conversation almost always starts the same. Offense first, then defense. But football, as every coach loves to remind us, is played in three phases. And while special teams may take the field the least, its impact can be the most dramatic. Week 2 gave us a perfect reminder. In Dallas, Brandon Aubrey drilled a field goal from beyond 60 yards. The kind of kick that doesn't just put points on the board, but flips momentum. It helped the Cowboys escape the Giants with the win they absolutely needed. And then yesterday, the Eagles and Browns showed the other side of the coin. A perfectly timed surge off the edge led to 2 blocked field goals, sealing a hard-fought victory for both teams. Plays like those don't happen often, but when they do, they can be the difference maker. A difference between a playoff berth and an early vacation. Special teams will never be sexy. They'll never command headlines. But if you're chasing a championship, ignore them at your own risk. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.